Good evening. Today I'm gonna talk about some other people that I had contact with when I was at Kao Lak hospital after the tsunami. Actually, I can't really say that I helped these two young people. More so that they helped me, I think. It was two boys, 14 and 16-year-old. The 14-year-old was on holiday with his family. He had a 16-year-old brother who had been treated to bring his friend on holiday in Thailand. And it was this friend and the younger brother that I met in the hospital in Kao Lak. When I met them, they were sitting on two mats in the staircase, on the landing of the staircase. And they had some minor injuries, both of them, some scrapes and bruises and small cuts and stuff, but nothing serious. So they were not badly hurt. They had been on the beach with the mom of the 14-year-old and the brother, the older brother of the 14-year-old. And the dad had gone to town for shopping. And they were down on the beach when the wave hit. They noticed that the water pulled away, that the water disappeared, but they didn't know what it meant. They didn't know why, so they were just curious. Then at one point, a Japanese guy started shouting, well, in Japanese, and no one understood. And he actually climbed up a tree, a palm tree, and everybody just looked at him like, what's going on? What's wrong with him? Obviously, being Japanese, they know about tsunamis because they have tsunamis all the time. No one understood what he was saying, so no one really cared. They just thought, well, he gone bungus. Very short time after this guy climbed up the palm tree, the wave came. And everybody found out what was going on and why he was shouting. The two boys started to run. Well, the whole family started to run, but these two boys, in some way, when the wave took them, they managed to stay together. They held on to each other for a while and were swept the same way. After a while, the friend, the 16-year-old friend, got a hold of the railing of a balcony. But he could not hold on to his to the younger brother of his friend. So he was swept away, but not too far, because not too far away was a gas tank. And the gas tank had this vent, like a pipe sticking up. And the young boy got a hold of this vent and held on to it. And he managed to hold on to the vent so that he wasn't swept too far away from the friend. When the water stopped, because, you know, it's a wave and it stops at one point, then he got back into the water and swam to the balcony. He got up over the railing and held on, so the two boys were together again. Just after he got up on the balcony, the water started to go back out. And he was, well, they were terrified because they saw people in the water getting swept out to sea. After the water was more or less gone, got back down on the ground floor of the house, and they could see the house was torn apart. The houses in Thailand, they built by making concrete, like a skeleton of concrete, and then they fill in the walls with bricks. And all the bricks were gone. It was only like the concrete skeleton that was left. So the downstairs of the house was just like an open skeleton. And then, obviously, it was full of all kinds of stuff. There was a car in there, and there was, palm trees and, dead people. But they got out of the house and started walking direction they thought was the direction of the beach. After quite some time, some people came and told them they had to go to the hospital. A little later on, a car drove past and picked them up and took them to the hospital. So when they got to the hospital, they were, cleaned off, and their bruises and their cuts and stuff were checked. But it was like the doctors didn't really have time to stitch anything, so they were just kind of, given the mat and basically a towel as a blanket. And then they were told that if they stayed in the hospital, the chance of their family finding them would be bigger than if they walked away. So they were just arrived at the hospital when I get there in the evening. And I was surprised about these two boys, because you would think that kids, they would be like panic, my family is gone, what to do? But these two boys, they were very calm and very, collected, and no panic at all. And they were not afraid, because they say, we have gone missing from our family, and our family will come and find us. And it was just like, they had this positive vibe, and they were incredibly positive. And every time I felt like, helping people in a situation like this, in a lot of death and destruction and sad stories people tell me, and every now and again I just felt very depressed and sad. And I would go talk to these boys, because they just had all this positive vibe and all this positive spirit, and they could get my spirit back up. They just had this ability to lift my spirit and to lift my mood and give me the will to fight on and go help more people. And it was incredible. I was really surprised that a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old boys, that they could do this. It was amazing. But anyway, the 5th day, these two boys were actually some of the last people I talked to in the hospital. And I was sitting talking to them, and I was telling them that I was going to go home to Surat, where I lived. I was going to go home to the East Coast, because there was not really anything more for us to do, my friend and I. So we wanted to go home. And we were talking about this, and we hear someone on the stair. And that's the dad of the 14-year-old who came up the stair. And it was just like, wow, he just found them. Of course, they were very happy, and there was a lot of hugging and stuff. And I was introduced to the dad, and the dad said, thank you for looking after his kids. And I was like, well, actually, it's your kid and his friend who have looked after me. They've been such a good help. And, I guess the dad was proud. And he also told us that the mom was in a different hospital. She was severely injured, but not life-threatening. She had a lot of injuries. She had broken bones and stuff, but she would be okay. The last brother, the 16-year-old brother, was also okay. He had been swept with the wave, but not very far, actually, before he got a hold of something and was okay. So he was basically not injured. And obviously the dad had been in town, which was on higher ground, so he had not been affected by the wave at all. So the entire family had survived this, and the entire family had found each other again, and they were ready to go home. Before they left, I gave them I gave my email address to these two boys, because I figured that would be the right thing to do. I would love to hear from them again, and they wanted to hear from me again. So we exchanged email addresses, and they left. I think it was 3 months later, after I had gone back home, and I still carried the memories of this meeting with these two boys, and then one day I checked my email. They sent me an email, and they told me that they had started a charity online. They wanted to collect money for helping the people in Kao Lak. And then on the day, a year after, on the day they would go back to Kao Lak and give the money where they thought it was needed. They were not going to give the money to some charity organization like Red Cross or something like that. They would go there and give the money themselves to whoever needed them and whoever had a good project. So I thought that's amazing. Two boys, 14 and 16-year-old, and they do something like that. It's a few days before Christmas, 2005. That means a year later, a year after the tsunami hit, I received an email, and they told me that they had bought the tickets, the plane tickets, and they were about to leave to go to Kao Lak, to Thailand, to bring the money that they collected. And they collected £500,000, £500,000 British pound, for that they would bring. And they told me that they looked into it. They were going to give money for a school, a health clinic, and a stadium, a sports arena kind of thing. And they had that planned already. Obviously, the mom and dad and the older brother was going to go there too. But this project with the collecting money was the work of the 14 and the 16-year-old friend. So I was very impressed, and I answered the email. And then I didn't hear from them for another 3 or 4 months, I think it was. And then I received an email where they told me about that they had been back to Thailand, and they gave the money to these 3 projects. And they also, after, received emails from the people who are in charge of those projects with pictures of the school going up and the hospital going up and all these things. So they saw proof of what their money was being spent on. So they were very proud, and they were... And they told me that the trip back to Thailand and bringing the money and the whole thing, this whole thing had kind of felt like a closure of the whole experience, the whole terrible experience of the tsunami and all. And it kind of gave them peace in mind, and they felt good. And for me, it was like, wow. I'm very impressed about these 2 boys. I answered the email, obviously, and that was the last thing I heard of them. I never received another email. I never sent another email. For me, I kind of see this as they sent me email, I answer. And when they didn't send a new email, for me, it feels like they closed that chapter of their life. They were finished. They had finished the whole tsunami experience. The whole thing, the whole disaster was like, it was closed. And I see that as the reason why they didn't write me back. I still have their email. And obviously it would be great to hear from them, but I feel it's not my thing to write to them and remind them about the tsunami. But if they want to write me, I sure would answer their email. So somehow this story was a positive story. That was one of the positive stories from the tsunami. They were not badly injured. The whole family got back together again. They did something really, really brave and really, really big in my eyes. Collected £500,000, brought them back to the area and gave them to the people who need it. I'm so impressed about these boys. Well, different kind of story than the last one. Still about the tsunami. I hope you enjoyed to hear this story. And please, if you haven't done so, subscribe to my channel. Please share my channel with other people. And please have a good time, because life is good. See you later. Bye bye.